The lesson.
Oh yeah.
And then so like if there was no, no issues with police, I'm going to assume there was no other issues with like competition, etc.
No, there's always people trying to take your shit. Like I had heaps of things. Like I had a situation where the bunch of dudes wanted to rob me for a pound of weed, and the smartest thing I did was to get them to meet me at a petrol station. And they couldn't do anything at the petrol station because were you gonna fucking get yourself caught on camera with the license plates and just over a pound of weed? Like, nah. So they parked up the street after I told them, like, fuck off. Like, nah, I'm not gonna sell you shit because you're 4 dudes in a fucking Lancer with a $50 note. Like, I don't think this is gonna work out, you know? And so I had to get a mate to come and pick me up. And I fucking had this pound of weed on me in my mate's car. And we turned a corner, and then a cop turns the corner, is like right behind us. And I'm like, fuck no, bro. Like, this is retarded. First, I avoid getting fucking robbed. And now I've got the fucking cops following us. And they pull us over and shit. And I've got the pound stashed underneath the seat. And my mate's like, fuck, bro, fuck. And I'm like, don't worry, man. Like, if anything happens, I'll take everything. Like, I'm going to say it's my buds and all that shit. And the cops come over to the window and they start chatting to us. And then they're like, they get a fucking radio call. And they're like, oh, don't worry, boys, have a good night. And just get right back in their car, turn the sirens on and go straight the other way. And I was like, fuck this, bro. And so I told him to turn the corner, and there was like hard rubbish at the time. Like it was that time of the month or whatever. And so I stashed the pound underneath a whole bunch of wood. And then he drove me back to my place, and I was just sitting up all night with these 2 big fucking cleavers just being like, fuck, man. Like I just had the most fucked up night. Like there's cunts trying to rob me for this shit. And the thing was, they hit me up on a wicket that I knew was not theirs. So I was like, fuck, they've probably just robbed this cunt and taken his fucking phone or whatever. But yeah, there's heaps of situations like that have happened, you know. But that's all a part of the game.
Just on that particular one, just to backtrack so I got my head around it, you've met them at the petrol station.
Yeah.
And that's where you've organised to catch up.
Yeah.
Why would they want to buy a pound of weed at a petrol station?
They agreed, you know. I would do all of my deals at like Macca's, Nando's, Burger King. Because like, what the fuck am I meeting on a dark fucking corner for? Like, am I a dumb cunt? Like, of course I'm going to put shit in a bag and just pass it off. Like, there's not security dudes sitting at Macca's being like, that looks like he's dealing drugs. Let's get him, boys, get him. There's no security camera like that unless maybe prison or some shit. So, like, I don't get why cunts think they need to be all dodgy and special about fucking selling drugs, bro. It's as easy as just passing an envelope.
And then they've rocked up with a $50 note.
Yeah, they were in a Lancer all scrunched together like, get in the car. It's all, yeah, bro. And I'm like, nah, I'm not getting in that car. You fucking retarded? But, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And then so, was it any particular incident or anything in particular that made you stop hustling, stop taking drugs? Or like how did it all come to a halt?
It came to a halt because, you know, I was trying to juggle a relationship, music, you know, having a positive life that's going to take me somewhere in the future, and selling drugs. Like the selling drugs thing was just a massive weight. It was just this fucking, like, it was like a void, and it was just sucking everything else in. And so as soon as like I was able to just cut off the selling drugs bit, I was just down to buying drugs. And then once I got rid of the buying drugs bit, it was like I now could properly manage. I could actually, you know, focus on these things in my life that will actually last and will actually benefit me, you know. But it's difficult because if you can make 2, 3, 5 grand in a day, what the fuck? Like, why would you stop that? And there's a good reason to stop it, but
for the kids that, you know, because I feel like now, you know, the kids are looking at some of the rap music out of Oz and emulating some of the shit that they're hearing on tracks and seeing in videos, whether it's the violence, the hustling, whatever the case may be. You know, hustling looks pretty glamorous on a TV screen. I think most people that have been involved and been in and out will tell you That's the good part.
Yeah.
And there's the other shit that they don't really show you.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel now looking back on it? Like, how do you feel about it? And do you think it was as glamorous as it was portrayed to be? Or do you think it's all a load of shit? Or
I think everything is nuanced, you know, like everything has its ups and downs and everything is good and bad. But I think that like I'm going to probably come across like a bit of a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but I probably do anyway. But I reckon that like, because you know about this whole thing, the war on drugs, yeah? And like, I just feel like there's so much more to be gained by certain people by keeping this shit alive than there is to be gained by ending it. And so I think there's a big reason for a small group of people to want to glorify drug dealing and want to tokenize certain groups of people and make them seem like they're already bad, and so the only option they have is to sell drugs or to shoot people. Like, I don't understand why people can't see that that's such a blatant insult, that these like people, just because of where they come from doesn't mean that they are bad people. It literally just means that they're in a bad situation. And so to assume that they're, you know, that it's some sort of a accomplishment for them to not be a bad person is kind of like, I would take that as a backhanded compliment. Like, why am I not just a person who can make the right choices? You know, like the world around me doesn't have to drive me into crime and stuff like that. I think it's more the fact that other people make it out as if like the cool guy with the big gold chain and the big muscles and stuff, that he's, you know, what everybody should want to look like, because look at what he can achieve, right? Even though it all crumbles and fucks up at the end, it's still like, isn't that your fantasy? But the weird thing is that it's nobody's fantasy. It's a made-up dream that has been sold to us, and we've just bought into it. Like, everybody's actual fantasy is to have a nice, happy life with somebody you love. You know, like, nobody can really argue against that unless you're a fucking narcissist. And so, like, I just think that it's become real marketable and real lucrative to sell narcissism. And that's, you know, drug dealing is one of the most narcissistic things you can do. There's a lot of shit that people don't realize, like politicians are in the same bed as the drug dealers, you know, but they're not gonna talk about it. They're gonna put on the show like, you're a bad guy, I'm the good guy. In reality, there's no bad guys, there's no good guys. Everybody's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? But
now, so when you've decided that, you know, you're gonna kick all the drug shit,
yep.
You've then decided to go back to America,
yep.
Get yourself sober and clean.
Yep.
Now you've come back to Australia. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, but we assume and anticipate that means that there'll be some new Lil Sknow music coming out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Anything that you can talk about, fill us in on, or?
I mean, like, I'm talking with people and I'm making sort of like moves happen, but I'm not really like wanting to show them too much, because like, you know, I want everything to be the way it should be before I really like put anything back out there. Because I know that my previous, I guess like catalog has been a lot of freestyles, a lot of just, you know, on the drugs, just making it happen, right? Whereas now I want it to be a much more like refined, a much more like professional approach, even though I still want to remain completely independent. But I just want to actually give like some seriousness to the whole thing. And that's why I'm kind of considering just getting rid of the name Lil Sknow, or at least just getting rid of the little part. Because I was also just, you know, everybody already knows me basically as my name, or it doesn't take a long time to search me up and find out I did real estate and there's my, you know, full name. So I was considering maybe just using my, you know, actual name, my birth name, as my artist name. But, you know, I'm still kind of like, you know, it's still a big project that I'm working on. So until everything's like, you know, properly set up and I'm ready to reveal it, then it's all just going to be a big secret.
The lesson. 927. Oh yeah.